All right, I'm good.
All set?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to call the Clay Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the
flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 is roll call. Whitey?
Chris Hiltunen.
Here.
Whitey Simon here. Christine Holcomb excused.
Yes.
Harold Bain.
Here.
Mark Borchardt.
Here.
Tom Kozel.
Here.
Robert Musling.
Here.
What was that?
Here.
Thank you. Keith Fell.
Excuse absent.
And Kathy A. Schweikert, the chair.
I am here. Thank you, Whitey. Item number 4, approval amendments to agenda. The amendments, anybody? Hearing nothing.
I'll move to approve the amendments to the agenda.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded.
I'll support.
Mark?
Yes.
Discussion. Item number, I'm sorry.
Vote, yes.
Yes, I say number 5. Yeah, approval of minutes, roll call.
Keith Fell. Excused. Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb, excused. Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Borchardt.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Musling.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikert.
Yes, thank you, Whitey.
Thank
Item
you.
number 6 is new business. We have 3 items under number 6 for new business. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to read the public hearing, public comment rules, which are
Excuse
printed.
me. How about the approval of the minutes?
You did that was the agenda motion.
Yeah,
Oh, we
Gotta do the minutes yet.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of
Mark?
Of the last meeting.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Tom?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hold it. Hold it. Keith Fell, excused. Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb, excused. Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Borchardt.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Musling.
I'm not going to vote because I wasn't present last meeting.
Okay. And Kathy Schweikert.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Item number 6, new business. 3 items. I'm going to read the public hearing, public comment rules, which are printed on the back of our agenda. Number 1, all comments must be made through the chairperson. Comments directed to the applicant from the audience are prohibited. 2, individuals wishing to speak have 3-minute time limits. And our timekeeper for tonight is going to be Tom Kozel. For each member of the general public, 6 minutes for a spokesperson for a larger group, such as subdivisions, groups with similar interests. Number 3, anyone wishing to speak is asked to sign in the sign-in sheet. Since we're not signing in, what I will ask you to do is state your name and address and possibly spell your name, please. Number 4, each individual will be allowed to speak once. It will be the chairperson's decision as to whether rebuttal comments will be allowed. 5, citizens may appoint a spokesperson to represent those who agree on each point of view. 6, public comments on a specific public hearing request should be made during the public hearing for that item. So item 6A is the public hearing in regards to 1900 South Channel. I am going to open the public hearing at 7:06 for this item. And do our planners have any comments to make in regards to this?
I can go through the updated review briefly.
Thank you, Eric.
So this is a public hearing and a second review of a special approval land use at 1900 South Channel Drive, zoned R1. The applicant's proposing to remodel and add to an existing one-story garage in the rear of the site that would accommodate an accessory dwelling unit within a proposed second floor of the garage. The improved accessory building would meet the setback, location, and size standards of section 3.01. And the township building official has also issued a letter verifying compliance with this section. The proposal would also meet the specific standards for accessory dwelling units in section 2025. Item 13CI in the review, we note the applicant has submitted a letter stating that they intend to make the site their primary residence and homestead, pending the sale of their current home. This came up at the last meeting, and we have no objections to this, and defer to the building official on final verification during the permitting process, since the applicant stated this was in progress. Item 13E, we note that it's our understanding, based on preliminary reviews provided by the County Health Department and Township DPW, that adequate septic and water systems are present to serve the ADU, and that this will be verified during the permitting process by each agency. And lastly, item 14 provides the specific standards for accessory apartments. And we note that the building meets the 20-foot height limitation, that the unit would be at least 420 square feet and would not exceed 35% of total building area on the site, and that the unit would also not exceed 2 bedrooms or 650 square feet, which is a maximum limitation. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Eric. How about the builder's applicant, which would be Mike Smith from for construction, or the applicant themselves? Would anybody like to speak?
May I ask if they raise your hand?
Would you please raise your hand?
Me?
On the reaction?
Yes, that's okay. Mike wants to speak. There's a reaction bar at the bottom.
I just want, I mean, I turned everything in that everybody asked for, so I think, I mean, I got really nothing to say. I mean, everybody
That's fine.
said everything should be good, so I just want to make sure everybody got everything I turned in.
Thank you
This
very
is
much.
And this is Roger, the applicant. I am pleased and relieved to let you know that our house has been.
How do I turn your volume up, TJ?
Okay, I'm sorry, you got cut off. You want to continue?
Only to say that I'm happy and relieved to let you know that our home has sold. Shelby Township home. So we should be closing on October 23rd. And I should be into the Clay Township offices shortly thereafter to, put Parsons as as our homestead.
Thank you for that information. Appreciate it.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any member of the public who would like to make any comments in regards to this project? As far as a public hearing, raise your hand or somehow get our attention, please. Sue, do you see anybody?
I do not.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody who wants to make a comment from the public in regards to this particular public hearing. So, do planning commission members have any questions or anything? Or I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:10 for this particular item for 1900 South Channel.
This is Mark. I have a question or a remark. In the packet, I received a site plan for that residence, 1900 South Channel. It says 1998, and I'm a little confused of why we received that. And I'm not sure why that's in the packet.
I can address that. The applicant used the plot plan from the home construction and then updated that drawing with the proposed addition for the garage to indicate setbacks.
Okay, so I see an existing garage, and then I move towards the river and I see the proposed residence and with a septic field. So is it the existing garage where this is going to take place, or is it a different existing garage?
It's the existing garage. They would be adding on to the west side and then adding on a second story to that existing garage. So there wouldn't be a second accessory building.
Okay, so I was confused on that, because I'm sure what it looks like. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the planning commission members? Comments? Okay, I'm hearing none, and I might have already said, but I'm going to close the public hearing at 7. I thought it was 7:10, but if nothing else, at 7:12. So planning commission members, what would you like to do?
Well, I think I'd like to make a motion to approve the special land use for 1900 South Channel Drive as proposed here.
I can second that. And
That includes the site plan, right?
fair site plan submitted, if we can add that.
As the site plan's been submitted.
So we have a motion, we have support. Everyone understand the motion? Any further comments?
Nope.
If not, Whitey, roll call, please.
Keith Fell excused. Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb, excused. Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Borchardt.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Musling.
Yes.
Kathy Schweikert, the chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It's been taken care of, and as far as the applicant and or their builder, thank you very much for helping us out and providing the rest of the information.
So much, we appreciate it.
Good luck with project.
Thank you.
Welcome to Harson's Island.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I want to thank Cindy and the building inspector for all the hard work helping me out during this project.
We will pass that message along. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Have a nice day. Appreciate everybody on the planning commission. Thank you.
Well,
Take care. All right, we're going to move on to item 6B, which is a public hearing for waterfront fences. And I will open that public hearing at 7:14. I would like to note that we, as planning commission members, have received, along I believe with the planners, a couple correspondence in writing. One is dated 9/17/20 from George Burgess. And there's another one we received from, actually it was today I received it. Email. Sorry. From Gary. I also received another correspondence dated via email dated September 23rd from a Glenn Rank. Has everybody seen those correspondence?
yes.
How about this? If somebody hasn't seen them, please tell me now, or I'm going to assume everybody's read them and understands what's going on with their input. Okay. All right, planners, as far as, is it Eric or Rod who want to?
It'll be me.
Okay.
All right, good evening. This item first came to the Planning Commission, I think, back in June for the initial discussion. And at the time, we provided quite a bit of overview looking at various ordinances from around the area, several different nearby communities, looking at how other communities are treating waterfront fences. There had been some concern raised by residents about waterfront fences being installed. And so we had a number of discussions. The Planning Commission looked at a chart of lots of different options and gave us direction to develop two alternatives, basically, one of which used a special land use approval process at the Planning Commission, much like the one you just had for the previous item, for fences located within the unobstructed yard space. And then the second version would have been that they would have been permitted as a permitted use without special land use if they're in the unobstructed yard. And the Planning Commission, after discussion, chose that the public hearing version would be the first version, which would require the special land use approval for fences being constructed within an unobstructed rear yard. So I'm going to just briefly highlight what this ordinance says. There's some amendments to definitions. The first adds a new definition for a decorative fence. The second adds a new definition for a waterfront lot, and that's any lot that abuts Lake St. Clair or other boatable waterway shall be considered a waterfront lot. There's specific requirements that are already in your ordinance in section 3.29 for unobstructed yard space, and this amends those provisions, clarifying and really reorganizing to make it flow a little bit better. There's a new graphic that was added that we've talked about that kind of describes the difference between a required rear yard and a non-required rear yard. And what it says is that decorative fences not exceeding 4 feet may be permitted in required yards abutting boatable waterways subject to certain conditions. There's fence material conditions that talk about the type of enclosure and that it has to be decorative. There's fence opacity requirements. So no more than 25% of the fence can be opaque or obscuring. So you have to be able to see through the majority of the fence. And then there are exemptions for non-residential uses. The Planning Commission can, in fact, permit fused and bonded vinyl coated chain link fence or the equivalent when, in fact, it's associated with a non-residential use as long as it doesn't exceed 8 feet. And then approval requirements. So any fence that's proposed within an unobstructed yard space shall require special land use approval by the Planning Commission. Planning Commission needs to review those plans with the spirit and intent of the ordinance, the master plan policies, and the potential impact on abutting properties and the neighborhood in general. Fences in all other yards would go through the traditional approval process, which involves the building official. And so then there's some other minor amendments to the actual residential fence and non-residential fence sections to address someone trying to raise the grade with a fence, and also making sure that all public and private easements shall be identified on permit drawings for any kind of fence. Planning Commission had discussed the issues with easements, and there are some concerns that some fences may have been constructed within easements. And even though some of those may be private and the township doesn't necessarily enforce private easements, having those easements shown on the plans would identify an issue, and the person installing the fence would know that there's a problem with a private easement, because they would have had to research those and show those on plan. So that, in summary, is what the proposed amendment is suggesting. Now, I'm going to mention that we did get some correspondence from the building official today. And I know I think he's online. Gary can certainly speak to his comments. But as I read it, the most significant concern deals with the approval process. One of the suggestions that's being made is that the Planning Commission involvement be limited to only those fences in on a waterfront lot when it's along Lake St. Clair or one of the channels, and not apply to the canals and the smaller body of water. And those, in fact, would be done administratively. So that's another option, and certainly something to discuss. You've gone through options on your own until you've gotten to this point. I know you're going to get public input. So certainly there's a number of things you can do once you've heard from the public and deliberated, and you could potentially postpone this till next month and have some time to think about it, give us further direction, or move forward with it as it's presented. So those are various options, and I will turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Actually, I was going to see, Gary, we did receive via email today your comments. Is there anything you'd like to add before I go out and ask for the public's comments?
I definitely tried to cover all the bases in that email. And that is a concern. You know, when we try to cut back the board involvement, when we are talking about the properties and channels, it definitely would really cloud up the boards in those approvals, because we really do get a lot of approvals or a lot of requests for fences on the canals. And a lot of them don't have the 40-foot setback or anything. So all those properties, virtually every one of them on a canal or a smaller body of water, would definitely have to go before the board. So this would avoid that, I think, and it would be a good thing.
All right, thank you for your input. I am now going to ask anybody who's out in the public if you could indicate if you would like to speak by raising your hand, getting our attention. And Sue, let me know.
We have Jen Lentz.
I don't know how you're going to raise. I think you're unmuted. Mute us. Or just she raise.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Could you please state your name?
I keep hitting unmute and it won't unmute.
And who are we talking about?
Jen Lentz.
Say the first name again.
Oh, there it is. It's
Thomas?
unmuted. It's unmuted
Okay.
now.
Okay, there we go.
John Lentz, 5931 Point Trumbull. Yeah, we're neighbors with the lady that put the fence up. There hasn't been any fences in the, well, we call it the front yard because our houses face the river. We got concerns that it runs from our house all the way to the seawall. And if someone happens to fall in the river on the other side of the fence, there's no way we can get over there because there's no access to help anybody out. So we consider it a safety issue. And we would like to take it down. Plus, it's a cyclone fence. A couple days ago, she put a 3-foot picket fence, probably 8 feet from the seawall, running parallel to the seawall. I'm not sure what that does.
It just all needs to come down.
So we'd like to see it all come down. We all got fences on the roadside for our dogs. There's no problem there. I don't know why the building inspector wouldn't let her do that. He insisted that it had to be on the riverside, so that's why she put it up. So she pretty much isolated herself from the rest of the neighbors.
Great, thank you for your comments, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Is there somebody else who wants to speak?
Oh, yep, right here. My name is Frank DeFever, 5943 Point Trumbull. We recently moved here this year because of its nice park-like setting along the water until one of our neighbors put a fence up. And we would like it taken down and have her put it on the roadside like many of the other people along here have done. We have one more neighbor here that would like to speak. Oh, no? Okay, I guess that's it for us.
Okay, thank you very much for joining the meeting and your comments. We appreciate that and your inputs. Okay, anybody else from the public that would like to speak at this part of the hearing?
I see
Yeah, this is-
George.
George Burgess would like to.
Okay,
Hang on.
just, we have to be a little patient, hold on.
Okay, you're unmuted.
I guess I'm okay now?
Yes, you're fine.
Yes.
And you got my name and address? George Burgess, 5909 Point Trumbull Road.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to thank the Planning Commission for their attention to this matter and the work that you put in to come up with the proposed changes. I like all the proposed changes. I did have a comment, which I sent in the letter to the Planning Commission about the rear yard setback. The fence we have now goes from the basically the front of the house, or the back as you people call it, to the seawall. And my comment on that was that I thought in reading this proposed changes that there has to be a rear yard setback allowed in the planning of this fence. So that would mean that the fence should not go to the seawall. It should go to the rear yard setback. And then it should not be open. It should be a closed fence, because if the fence was put up to keep animals safe or keep children safe, it cannot be open. It has to be closed up so that you can't get out to the seawall and somehow fall in the river and drown. So I think the changes included that to say that the fence had to stop before the seawall, but I'm just trying to verify that, whether I'm reading that correctly or not.
Are we talking in regards to this particular project, or not project?
Well, I'm
site?
talking about if you're going to have a fence on the water, it doesn't make any sense to me to allow it to go right up to the seawall and be open-ended so that somebody can walk right off the property and fall in the water. It would seem to me if the fence was put up to be some kind of an enclosure to protect animals, to protect children from getting away, falling into the river, it would have to be a enclosed fence, which means that it would have to have a barrier between the water and the end of the fence. You shouldn't go right to the seawall where you can go right over the seawall. And I thought that's what it said in your changes. And that's why I sent the letter to you to verify if I'm reading this correctly or not. Rod from Giffords could probably give us a understanding of it, because I think he was part of this rewrite of the ordinance.
Rod, do you have any comment?
Yeah, it says all properties abutting a boatable waterway shall maintain an unobstructed yard beginning at the seawall, bulkhead, or normal high water mark. So the fence can go up to the seawall, not on the seawall. So essentially it would go in the ground, or basically no closer than where the seawall starts. So it's essentially enclosing the entire yard space as you would normally see it. So that's the intent, is that it would be, in most cases, it's going to be an enclosed fence that goes all the way around that rear yard.
Yeah. Well, the situation we have here is the fence goes to the seawall, and there's actually an extra piece of fence that actually goes beyond the seawall, so that, because the dogs were getting around the fence. They were walking on the seawall and getting around the fence to go out. But it is wide open. There is no enclosure of this fencing that we have here.
Yeah, there's no requirement to totally enclose the fence if you put it up.
You are kidding me.
So you don't have to have a fence paralleling the seawall.
No. No.
Why would you put up a fence then?
Okay, I thought that's the clarification I was looking for, because I thought that you were just saying in your comments that the fence would be an enclosure. Enclosure means that it would be closed on the end. It would not be open.
As far as I know, that's not a change from the existing ordinance. The existing ordinance would allow you to put a fence up, and you wouldn't necessarily have to enclose it.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to talk to, if
Could
my
you state your name? Hold on a second. Could you state your name again, please?
Sure. My name is Paula Burgess, and I live at 5909 Point Trumbull Road. I'm his wife. And this fence is a big thorn in our side. I told you so many times we've been on this. We live in a little private section of M29 or Point Trumbull Road or the North Channel that goes from the Pearl Beach Drain Ditch to Johnny Liga's Bar or to Pearl Beach Boulevard. The only way to get into this piece of property is through any one of our yards. There's no welcome sign inviting people in here. We are a very closed, little fun-loving community. We respect one another's properties. It's always been our own private little beach or park over here. And then all of a sudden, this young lady comes in and wanted to put a fence in the back, by the road, like everyone else has, but she was told she couldn't do that she needed to put her fence out on the riverside. Now, this was to keep her dog safe, correct? Or if she had children come and visit, it would be to keep them safe. So why is it that her dogs can go all the way out on her fence, all the way to the channel bank, out on her dock, all the way to the channel bank, and we sit here thinking those poor dogs are gonna fall in the river, and then what do we do now? This just doesn't make sense. If you want to fence in your dog's yard, you would fence them in so they can't get out of the yard, correct? And these dogs have already gotten out and they've been in the highway several times so far. They've been on the river. This is a big nuisance over here. And I don't understand why we need to put up with this. I know this is just our own private little problem, but it still is a very important problem to all of us that live through here. So again, I'm asking you to think about this as a private little part, and all 12 of us except one, and she was not wanting to put her fence out there. They told her she had to put her fence out there. So what do you think about that? How would you like to live next door to this?
All right, thank you very much for your comments.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to ask anybody else in the public who would like to comment on waterfront fences.
Yeah. Hello?
Hi.
Okay.
Could you state your name, please?
Alt-A to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Just popped up a message. John Cerilli, 5925 Point Trumbull. So comments and questions. I understand in reading the updates that decorative fence and wooden fence, et cetera, are allowed. I do understand that chain link fence or vinyl coated fence is not allowed. Is that correct?
And that is correct. In an unobstructed rear yard, you cannot do that.
And not abutting to a commercial property, and then the brown, black, or green fence can be vinyl coated up to 8 feet against a commercial property, say like Colony Marine. Is that correct?
Correct. The commercial property has the ability to do.
So technically this fence should not be there because it's a chain link fence, right?
Current ordinance.
According to the current. Okay. So if I wanted to put up a fence, I want to put up a chain link fence, I couldn't do that on my property because I have small dogs also, and their dogs have wandered over our property, et cetera, and defecated over here and all that kind of stuff. So if I wanted to put up a fence, could I put up a chain link fence?
In the current ordinance, yes, you can do that in the rear yard. You cannot do that in the front yard.
And the front yard
is the street side.
On the road.
Sorry? And the
front yard is the street side.
Okay, which is the part of the property that's facing the river is called what?
That's the rear yard. And under the current ordinance, as it's written, you can put a 4-foot high decorative fence, but that includes a vinyl coated chain link fence. So that is permitted right now under the ordinance only on the water side. If you are on the street side, which is the front yard, you may put up a 4-foot high decorative fence, but it cannot be chain link. That's the way the current ordinance reads.
So that's currently opposite of everything that exists here then?
Exists in your neighborhood? Is that what you just asked?
Yes.
It's a possibility, yes.
Okay, so how do we get past this? Because we've got two definitions. There's the definition before where people have put the chain link fence up for their animals on what you call the front yard now, which is the side facing the street, and no one's put anything up on the waterfront side, which is the backyard now.
Rod, I'm just gonna say, right now we're dealing with this ordinance as it is right now in Clay Township. I don't even know how long we've considered it, but on waterfront, your front yard is the road side, not the river side.
And that's currently documented? Because I can tell you, I just moved in here 3 years ago, and that has not been the definition by every single resident here. So there's
It may not be the definition by the resident, but that's what's been on the books. We had, as Clay Township, possibly a change. We had a change in building inspectors, and maybe that has created some education differences in where fences are now located per our ordinances. Again, we're looking at the fences because of the difficulties or topics that have come up with the interpretation of how our ordinances now stand. That's why we're having this public hearing, is to look at other options. But unfortunately, that's where we're at the moment. And all this, as far as with the current ordinances right now, it's online. You can go to the township website and see what it says.
So it's confusing because we got a double definition or a double standard here for front and backyards, because all our garages are in the front yard then, on the street side. And I'm new, so I'm confused because if you understand what I'm saying, just because a building inspector didn't understand the rules properly, hold on, doesn't make it. See, we've got a descending boat here. Doesn't make it right or allowable, because like my next question is, what's the approval process to put up any fence? My understanding, can you?
Hey, John, you're pretty much out of time.
Okay. The last question was approval process to put up a fence. I understood.
Building official.
Pardon me?
Building official.
Building official.
Building department.
The neighbors have no say if a fence is going up. There's no ordinance that says neighbors have to be in agreement?
No.
I think we need further discussion.
Okay, time's up for you. Thank you. No, I appreciate you weighing in on this topic. Anyone else in the public who would like?
Jennifer wants to speak. Hang on.
Okay.
You. Hello? Hello?
Okay, who am I speaking with?
Jennifer Parker.
Hold on a second. Okay, it says Donna Gordon.
I have Jennifer Parker.
Yes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I'm muted. Jennifer Parker, 6013 Point Trumbull. I live next to the 6009 home that was purchased by the township. Artie at a previous meeting in July said that the township would be willing to put up a fence to separate the property, my property, from now what the township has purchased. What type of fencing will be going up on the water side? Behind the house is a chain link fence, which I guess you're saying is the front of the house, which is where the garages are on the roadside. What type of, is it going to be a green belt? Is it going to be a chain link? Is it going to be, what kind of monstrosity am I going to look at on the water side when that home is demolished? I'd like a clarification of what type of fence I will be looking at.
I don't have a clarification for you because I don't know what the property is. I have no idea what Mr. Bryson has told you, unless Rod or anybody else has any information.
I can tell you what this ordinance says. If this ordinance is passed, it has to be a decorative fence, which means ornamental in nature and intended to provide permanent barrier for passage. And it has to be constructed of, there's several material options. It can be of weather tolerant wood. It can be of wrought iron, anodized aluminum, similar materials. And it, you know, goes through that. Now, if you're in an unobstructed yard, then it gets a little more, there's closer scrutiny to the materials. It has to be a decorative fence, but it also has to be either white, black, brown, or another earthen color. You can't have barbed wire. You can't have sharp points on it. And it has to be no more than 25% opaque, which means you're going to be able to see through 75% of it. And it cannot be chain link. So that's the general standards that would apply if this ordinance were to pass.
Well, I guess if the township is the one putting up the fence, because what already said would happen, I guess you guys are going to set the standard for what's acceptable to stop people from coming to sit at my fire pit. So that I'm interested to see what you come up with.
Anything further you'd like to state? Okay, we will definitely keep that in mind, and I'm sure Mr. Bryson will be aware of what this discussion is for the public hearing, okay? Any other person in the public who would like to speak?
Hello?
Tom?
Yeah, Tom Purcell, 7882 Lake Drive. In regards to those fences, I don't know where it changed, but years ago, you were supposed to be able to walk the water unobstructed. And it started on the lakes and stuff like that. When we started developing our area, you were supposed to go to your backyard, look left and right, and not see no fences. And you were supposed to be able to walk at the water's edge, not loiter, not trespass, but you could walk up and down the edge just like you do on a sandy beach. And that's why the garages are out by the road. On those houses, the front yard is supposed to be the lake, the river. That's their front yard. That's why all the garages are out on the other side. And when you walk back there, you look left and right, and it was wide open. That was the original intent. And then as other people start moving up here, they just get different opinions. And that's just a comment on that. And then what about fences that are already existing? Are they going to be allowed to stay, or do they have to bring them up to code now?
That legally established fences are grandfathered and can stay.
Okay.
Tom, do you have any other comments?
Nope, not on this one.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public who hasn't spoken on this topic yet?
Yeah.
Sue, do you see anybody else for this particular public hearing?
Yep, Thomas Michaels.
thomasmichaelschippert, 5887 Point Trumbull Road. I do want to say that the fence was put up during the governor's shutdown in no work order. So I'm just wondering how they want to address that.
I mean,
You know what? I don't know.
Madam Chair, the Planning Commission doesn't deal with permits
No.
and that are not issued by the Planning Commission and doesn't deal with enforcement. So this isn't the proper body to ask the question.
You need to go back to the planning, or excuse me, you need to go back to the building department or code enforcement, which is located in the Clay Township offices. And I'm not sure who I'm looking at right now.
Looks like is Donna Gordon the next one up?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Bill Gordon, live at 5915 Point Trumbull Road, and a couple doors down from the chain link fence fiasco. And I just wondered that with the fence out there, and there is water and sewer lines going underneath the fence. If something happens, how do you get to it?
Tear it out.
Tear the fence up.
Yep.
Okay.
They have to get to their utilities. So that's, again, something that they have to deal with. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for voicing your concerns, though.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public?
I would like to speak.
Carol Sampson?
Sampson? Yes, Carol Sampson, 6039 Point Trumbull Road. I'm really confused with the fences because in 2018, I had a fence permit to go out to the river, but it could only be 4 foot high and it had to been out to the seawall. It had to been a decorative fence. And the 6 foot fence, I have a 6 foot privacy fence against my neighbor's 6 foot chain link fence that she put up in 2018 also. I put my privacy fence. So she's got the chain link fence all the way out to the, far back by the road. And I had the permit to go all the way out to the river with my 4 foot decorative fence. So when did it change for the fencing? Because that was in 2018.
All right, I'm going to venture out on this. I don't know, and Rod, if you want to help me, you can. I don't think there has been a change. Maybe it's been an interpretation from people in the building department on how this was supposed to be applied, and we are now all dealing with where we're at. And I don't know if I have a better answer than that at this point.
Okay, well, I was just wondering because like there's a 6 foot chain link fence going towards the road, and I did not put the 4 foot fence down the riverfront because all my neighbors, I didn't want to really do that, but I did have the permit, and I still have the permit.
Okay.
So it's
obviously you have a permit. I'm assuming everybody else with their fences had their permit, so they followed whatever the building department at the time told them or allowed them. So I'm really sorry, don't have a better answer than that.
Because I was confused with the waterfront or the water back and that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience who would like to make a comment on this subject? Sue, you see anybody else?
I don't see anybody raising hands. There is questions in the chat room, Madam Chair.
I did see some of those. I was trying to read that. I would like to ask a question, clarification. Didn't we already do that from Jennifer Parker? Unmute yourself. Is there more than those?
Captain Wally, there's questions about his. At the very top, he's got questions.
Captain Wally.
It's very difficult to answer a question on a very specific piece of property. This is a public hearing on an ordinance amendment. And without knowing the specifics of a piece of property, if that person has particular questions about a property, they could always call the building department and ask that question or review the ordinance. We really can't answer a question about a specific property without having more detail.
I agree with Rod. Now that I've read them all, contact the building department. Either go in and or call and ask them to explain your question and get your answer.
Cindy
Anybody
would
else?
be a great place to start. Calling Cindy.
I'm sorry?
Cindy with the building department would be a great place to start. Cindy Babbitts.
And just a reminder, they're open Monday through Fridays they're closed from 12 to 1 for lunch and sanitizing of the building. So just keep that in mind.
It looks like reading back says we were told by Cindy at the building department we had to go to the commission.
I kind of saw that, but this again, we're doing a public hearing on a proposed new ordinance for waterfront fences. And I think we all understood that there's a lot going on with waterfront fences and what is waterfront and what is not, what's a front yard, the whole thing. So this really is a public hearing in regards to that and get input from the public so we can decide, do we do something? Do we not need to do something? So I'm going to ask one more time for the public. Does anybody else have any more comments in regards to this particular public hearing?
Madam Chair, Captain Wally raised his hand and Thomas Michael raised his hand, Shippert.
Okay.
Unmute Captain Wally.
Sure.
He's not saying anything.
Captain Wally there? I'm not hearing anything. How about, was it Shippert?
He's typing in chat. I don't know what to.
Wally is?
Yes.
He may need to join with audio. He may have never joined with audio.
Madam Chair, one thing that I can
Sure,
note
go ahead.
that's related without being specific to a piece of property, under this ordinance, if it passes, there are exceptions for non-residential uses, and he said this was a commercial property. So as a commercial property, the planning commission may allow the following exceptions for non-residential uses that abut residential uses, subject to the special land use requirements, and they can allow a vinyl coated chain link fence or its equivalent, and it has specific requirements, and it can be up to a maximum of 8 feet. So if his particular property fits into that condition, then that would apply. But I can't speak to that without knowing all the details. So that's just what the ordinance says, as it relates to commercial fences. If you're in a piece of property that is covered under this particular ordinance.
I appreciate that input and that information. I'm sure they do also, but I really think they do need to contact the building department in some form or fashion to get the information also. So it's specific to what they're asking versus the public hearing on fences. So back to Sue. Anybody else?
Jennifer Parker asked in the chat to ask another question.
She already did once, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna, unless it's different than what we've already heard, I'm gonna just continue on with anybody who has not had an opportunity to speak as far as this public hearing is concerned.
I don't see any other hands.
Okay. All right. Well, at this particular point then, on this item for the public hearing on fences, I'm going to close off public hearing, which is about 7:54. And I'm going to ask planning commission members thoughts, comments, you know, now that we've had more input, we have in writing some of our proposals. There are other couple items that have come up from the building department as concern they have and some other people's concerns. So planning commission members.
I had just a couple questions and or comments for Rod and maybe even for the residents on Point Trumbull. The way the ordinance is currently written, they can have a fence on the water side, which we consider the rear yard, or they could have a fence on the road side, which we are considering the front yard, correct? They could have a fence on either side.
They can. The one on the front yard, though, cannot be chain link.
Correct. So essentially what we're doing with this amendment that we're talking about for the ordinance is we're changing the procedure for the fence so that neighbors would be involved in a public hearing if somebody applied for a fence for that rear yard, correct?
And you're also changing what that fence can look like. You can no longer have a chain link fence in that required rear yard.
So I mean, essentially what we're doing is we're removing the chain link from the rear yard, as we're calling it, the water side. And we're adding an element that would give neighbors the ability to voice their opinion on the fence when it was permitted.
Those are two things that are being added. That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the people on Point Trumbull understood that they can have a fence, the way the current ordinance is, the fence can go on either side. It just has to meet the criteria of 4-foot high decorative fence. And that could go on either side, whether it is front yard or rear yard.
Correct. You 4 foot, and then the only exception to that is if you're in the non-required rear yard, which means your fence is set back more than the rear yard setback, you could actually have a 6-foot high fence. But that would have to, you'd have to be beyond, say, your house would have to be set back more than the minimum setback requirement, and the fence would have to be in that area, just to complicate things a little bit. But
I just wanted to get a little clarification so that maybe the folks that are on Point Trumbull sort of understand what the Planning Commission's intent was for this adjustment of the ordinance. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other Planning Commission members?
I do. I have a question and a comment. Any reason why we can't put in that fencing cannot go past the unobstructed yard space and not to the water front? That would be in compliance with Michigan state riparian rights, which a gentleman was speaking earlier about having access through the backyards along the water. Not unless you take in consideration the 8-inch cap, and if that's an access. So that's what I would like to see, is that fencing can't proceed to the water past the unobstructed yard space.
So just so I'm clear, you're suggesting that there would be no fencing allowed in the unobstructed yard space?
That's correct.
So let me understand that. So that would be 40 foot from the seawall.
Depending on the district.
Yeah, depending on the district. But here we go. We got a district here that everybody claims it's the front yard is the water. It's been like that for years. I know people that own property over there, and some of it's written in some of the deeds. That's what concerns me, is here we're telling them to put a fence in there, and I mean, some of these people's deeds that it is unobstructed all the way from Cross Point Trumbull, from Johnny Liga's all the way to almost Island Drive.
Keep in mind that the way the unobstructed yard space is defined, and I'll read it for you. It says the unobstructed yard space shall mean the required or non-required yard space abutting below the waterway that is void of all buildings, structures, shrubs, hedges, and other similar improvements, and landscaping above a height of 3 feet, and then trees have to be pruned up to 8 feet in height. So you can have some obstructions in the unobstructed yard space as long as they're 3 feet or below, or 8 feet and above. And then fences obviously is the exception. Those can be as high as 4 feet.
I agree with Mark, but people that live on canals are going to have issues, right? So we'd almost have to have something totally separate for canals and things of that nature.
Right, Tom, but I think Rod maybe addressed that earlier in somewhat that just large bodies of water, canals and lakes.
Yeah, that was a suggestion from your building official. Right. That was a suggestion for your building official, that maybe you have these restrictions and have it come to the planning commission if it's on a larger waterway and not on canals.
Right.
Because some of those people might be right at the minimum right now.
I don't know, we can write in exceptions on the plan, if something that we want to do, that depending on if it's 40 feet for the yard space, then maybe we, depending on the residents, if there's a percentage that we can use as the unobstructed yard space instead of just a regular number.
I don't know if the unobstructed yard not having fence would be a wise thing, because even the riparian rights, you're talking feet. You're not talking that somebody has a right to go through your yard to get to the waterway.
Well, they do riparian rights. You can walk the river.
You can
or
walk
lake.
you can walk the normal high water line.
Right.
Well, what do you do if you
So-
get a boater in distress or something, or during a storm or something, or some emergency? They got to get through.
It is written in the laws that you have 24 hours to dock at anybody's dock.
Yep.
If you're in distress. But the ordinary high water mark, it goes back to the riparian rights. You are allowed to walk the beach if there's a beach access. There's no beach access along Point Trumbull.
Nope.
So planning commission members, do you want to think about more language that we don't necessarily have in our public hearing notice for today? How do you want to proceed? We've got a lot of input from the public and more concerns.
I actually think we need to take another look at it.
Okay, hold on a second. Go ahead, Harold.
I think we need to take another look at this. With the way everybody's talking today, I think we really need to do and look at, I mean, I know we put a ton of work into this with all the changes in Rod and Eric and all the guys, but I think listening to the people, we really need to really look at this again.
Okay, somebody else is trying to, go ahead.
Go on, I'm done.
I agree, Harold.
Because I'm looking at people here that, you know, I know people that live on there, and putting a fence there, I think the bigger problem is we need to define the front yard, the rear yard, and everything else. And I know that Chris was talking about, yeah, this puts it on both ends, but I don't think we should be able what we can do with their front yards and backyards myself, other than if they need to get a fence permit, they do. But I'm not going to say that, yeah, you have to put your fence in the backyard and tell everybody, well, there's your water view. Look at fences all the way down the river. I think we need more work on this.
I agree with Harold. This front yard, backyard on waterfront has been a,
Get rid of the front yard.
I think it's been a thorn in our side for years, and nobody just wanted to address it, and this is just bringing it out to the forefront.
I think it is. I understand what their point of view is, but the way it's written right now, I also understand why they got permits to do what they did.
Right, I do too, but I think, I mean, if we're gonna do this, let's really get in depth on this. And like I said, Eric and Rod's put a ton of time on this, and so have we, but I think we need to put a little more time considering what the people really want.
I agree. Our planners have done a lot of hard work in listening to us and trying to come back with other things. I was all for doing a public hearing because I really wanted to hear what the public had to say. And it's not just where this particular fence is, it's canals. I mean, our building inspector decided to chime in on his email and about maybe not include canals or small bodies of water. I think we, unfortunately, I'm going to say, have to take a step back possibly and look at this again from all the points of view that people have now chimed in on again.
Yeah, I do too. And Mark, I think you're with me on this.
Absolutely.
That's all I have to say.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So just so I'm clear, do you want to just take the month to just give this some thought and then bring it back up for discussion? So basically close the public hearing, and then we've already done that, but then just postpone action, give it time to think about it. Then we can talk about it next month and decide whether or not you're going to move forward, or you want to amend it, or you want to try something different. Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be my feeling. I'm not sure what the rest of the board members are thinking. You just heard what Rod had to say. Is that something we're in agreement on?
Well, I'd like to table this motion until we get more input from us.
Yeah, basically, I agree, you know, for postponement. I think we should also put a comprehensive list together of issues that were brought up by the public, as well as the email that we got, and dissect each one of those and see how they fit into this proposal.
Basically, I think we can keep the public hearing open as we had that one on that property down by Rose Marine for months.
I already closed it, Whitey.
What was that?
I already closed the public hearing.
Yeah, no.
I already
You
closed it.
it
This
totally? We can't keep it open?
Not once you close it.
No, I closed
I
it.
think in the case of this, if you go a different direction anyway, you're probably going to want to re-advertise if you.
Thank you.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're looking at a whole different group of things now that we've just talked about.
It's not just a 1 or 2 line amendment to what we have scheduled today as a public hearing. I'm kind of getting the feeling it might be more of an extensive rework.
To be honest with you, I wish we could wait with that until we are all in person at the Township Hall and we can discuss that without trying to find somebody that wants to talk and doesn't want to talk.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you, but this is our life right now.
I know.
And the alternative is not much better. So at this particular point, I have closed the public hearing. I believe we need some sort of a motion at this particular point, correct, Rod?
I'll make a motion to postpone the zoning ordinance amendments for waterfront fencing.
I'll second it.
Was that Harold?
Yes.
Yes. Any discussion?
Basically, we are postponing to amend the section in the ordinance regarding fencing.
Waterfront.
Yeah, waterfront fencing.
Waterfront fencing, yes.
Okay. That's almost a simple one.
Everybody understand the motion? Hearing no one not understanding the motion, how about a roll call, please?
Keith Fell, excused. Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb, excused. Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Borchardt.
Yes.
Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Musling.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikert.
Yes. All right, we will be back on this issue next month. How's that? Okay. In the meantime, we have some work to do, okay? I'm moving on to item number 6C, which is Rose Marine Site Plan reapplication. So, Eric, are you on this one or is
Yes.
it? Okay.
So this is a request for a new site plan approval, as an approval from 2016 has expired and changes to that site plan I proposed. The site includes 2 parcels on the west side of Dyke Road, immediately north of Beaubien Creek. It does not include Rose Marine property south of the creek. The applicant's proposing to develop the north half of the site. That's currently an unpaved boat storage area. And item 2, we recommend the applicant submit documentation from MDOT and the township engineer regarding improvements that would be required to the 4 existing driveways along Dyke Road, indicated as to be repaired as required, which we think is unclear. This should also include feedback from MDOT on if all 4 existing driveways should remain as proposed with the development. Proposed site improvements include a new building E at 17,760 square feet and an attached building G at 5,236 square feet. Building E would be a metal 30-foot tall 1-story building containing boat storage racks. And the use of building G is a little unclear. It includes 5 garage doors, and we're asking the applicant revise the site plan to indicate uses for building G. In item 7, we note that there are existing advertising signs along the Dyke Road fencing as shown in a Google Street View image. These should be removed if they have not been permitted by the building department, and that's regardless of this request and should be handled through enforcement. In item 8, we note that the proposed buildings do not meet the 20-foot minimum rear yard setback and unobstructed yard space requirements. This is to the water to the west of the site. And that approval of a variance or setback averaging will be necessary. In item 9, we note deficiencies with the minimum percentage of landscaping provided, and that the site plan and landscape plan should be revised to exclude the Dyke Road fence line area landscaping that does not qualify towards the percentage, and to accommodate the proposed building foundation plantings through curbing or other improvements typical for these types of areas. In item 10, we note the parking proposed in front of building E does not provide the required 20 foot of landscape setback. This is measured from the Dyke Road right-of-way line and cannot be approved as proposed. And continuing with landscaping, item 12 notes that the required green belts along the north and east property lines are not provided, and a reduction of proposed pavement and building areas is likely necessary. There are several issues with proposed parking. First, the percentage of interior parking lot landscaping is not provided. Second, the street frontage plantings are not provided. And this is within the greenbelt area that's also lacking. Third, the proposed parking in front of building E does not meet the minimum length requirement for 60-degree spaces, as they are only 15 feet long, which is inadequate for parking. Also, an adequate two-way traffic access width in this same area is not provided, and the access in this area should be redesigned. Lastly, the applicant should provide the minimum required parking calculations based on the zoning ordinance, as it is unclear how required parking was calculated. And that's all I have, and this is not a public hearing. This is just a site plan request. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Is the applicant for Rose Marine and or its representative present and wishing to speak?
Yes.
Hi, can you identify
This is
yourself,
Larry
please?
Nichols with Armstrong, Miller and Nichols.
Okay.
You can hear me okay?
You can.
Okay. I'll just respond to a few of the planner's points. The first one, and everybody here has probably seen this site before, he was wondering what areas are going to be paved and what is going to be gravel. It'll eventually all be paved. The drives to be used, it said, wondering what drives were going to be used. I know we're going to use the south drive and the north drive for sure on this parcel. I don't know if Bill has plans for the other two drives or not, but those drives were all existing and we were just keeping them intact at this point. They were wondering if the buildings D and C have been removed. Building C has been removed and building D will be removed to permit the following buildings to go up. The new building, building G, is a shop, and I know we have it close to the seawall, but that was intentional as to be able to get to that service well out the back door. So I don't know if we're going to have to get that variance then to do that or not. I know with one of the other buildings is close to the seawall also on this site. The dumpster is located, I guess you would call it in the front yard, but this goes back to what you guys were just talking about a few minutes ago in your public hearings. I mean, on this site here, I guess we don't want to put the dumpster out by where the boats are. So I know in our last proposal in 2016, we approved the dumpster where it's shown on this site plan now. The 15-foot measurement on the parking spaces, that's just a mistake on our part, and I apologize for that. We will correct that. That will have to be a one-way along there unless the owner wants to make the building smaller. I mean, obviously, there's just not enough room in there to make it two-way. There's enough room in there to make that parking space 20 foot, but not to make it two-way. And probably one of the other things about figuring out the parking for this site, and this was probably discussed once before a while back, and we should have marked it on here. This is a rack storage building, but it's not a rack storage where you come and park your car, ask them to splash your boat, and then take it out for the day and come back and they put it back away. This is a rack storage building, so you bring your boat in here in the fall, They put it away until the spring. So there's no additional parking for the people, or there's no additional parking for trailers. You wouldn't leave your trailer at this site. So that's for the large rack storage building. That's its intent. And I think that would play into how we calculate the parking. Now, the other thing is, and I know you guys worked with us a little bit last time, is the landscaping with this site. I mean, there's boats everywhere. They're always moving them around. And I don't know if there's some way we can work out an accommodation to where we can satisfy some landscaping requirements and still make it usable for the boats. I mean, there's boats everywhere. And there probably always will be.
Is that all the comments you have right now in regards to the?
Yeah, I'll take any other questions you have, so.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Planning Commission members. Questions?
Yeah, so building E is not going to be, it's not going to be in and out storage. It's just going to be a one winter time and that's it.
Yes. That's been Bill's intent all along. It's just so he just wants to store the boats in there. And then when you come in the spring, you'll get your boat and then I'll put it in the water and then it'll be gone.
All right, I'm not familiar with this project back in 2016, but am I seeing wells? So are you going to rent wells in the back here? Where the 16 parking spaces are off the creek? Is that going to be rental or service work?
There is only a couple rental wells in there. Most of the wells that you're looking at are service wells.
Okay, I see them now. All right.
Questions, Harold, or can we move on to let somebody else ask a question?
Go ahead. I'm just
Here
looking.
Okay. Other Planning Commission members, any questions, comments?
If we were to approve this site plan with conditions, would that be something we could do or not? Or there's too many conditions?
I think there are too many.
Yeah, so do I. Too many.
I think there's a lot of conditions here.
I don't know whether we could catch all of them, and there are implications on the drawings that probably would have to be shown.
Yes. I think he needs to address these items from the site plan review.
The site plan that we have is dated August 1st. Am I correct on that? So.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the most updated one we have. So.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
this is Gary Interlick. I'm at Bill Rose's office in Clay Township.
Okay.
So we've been listening, and we just got the comments. I got them on Monday and sent them to the architect.
Okay.
Because we're contemplating within Bill and I just maybe asking at some time in the future for administrative approval of the previous site plan. Because we need time to talk between myself, Bill, and the architect as to the comments from the planner. Some of them, as the architect indicated, can be resolved. Some of them can't. And if they can't, we'll probably just revert back to the old site plan that was previously approved. But we need time to contemplate that.
I didn't hear the last part you cut out. I'm sorry.
Oh, we need time to discuss and contemplate, given the extent, there's 17 comments from the planner and things that have to be changed.
So are you asking that this matter be postponed by a motion or adjourned? Are you the applicant? What are you asking, if anything?
Well, at the end of your discussion amongst the committee members, we would probably make that request. But we'd like to hear their insight so that we know what to talk about.
All right, thank you for the comment. Planning Commission members?
From what I'm getting, if he's asking for the approval of the old plan, he would have to resubmit that plan to be currently reapproved, correct?
Cindy told us that the 16 plan is expired, so that application, that plan is not a valid plan. If it was resubmitted, we would do the same review that we did with this plan.
That's
So
the
I don't.
same. Go ahead.
It would,
That's the same
there would be
information.
the same issues likely with setbacks and landscaping and green belts.
Much
So
to
I don't
do
know
anyway,
that there's
yes.
a benefit.
That was the same information I got from the building department through Cindy, that the other one was not applicable any longer.
That's why we're looking at this again.
Right. You have so much time after it's approved to build and that we didn't.
Correct. So that, we're just looking at the now present site plan that's been submitted for this hearing, or for
And this is our first review, so it wouldn't be unusual for the applicant to have a second review and respond to the comments and try to take care of some of the items and let us know what they can handle as far as any variances or things like that.
Makes sense to me.
Correct.
So we can continue discussing, or somebody can make a motion. It's up to planning commission members if you have further comments in regards to our planner's review and questions.
Well, I just.
Eric, can I ask you, a lot of the items, of course, we can adjust and make those changes quite easily. Some of them, we probably can't. I mean, is something that I would call your office and tell you what we think we can do before we bring this back, or not?
Correct. Yes, you and I and Bill can meet.
Okay.
Well, then I think we should just table this until they get the adjustments to the site plans.
That's fine.
Absolutely.
And we'll make a motion.
Then I'll make the motion that we table Rose Marine site plan until the adjustments are made.
I'll second.
My question is,
Okay, Harold, and who seconded?
Yes.
well, we need to know when it's going to be back on the agenda.
Who seconded?
Chris,
Chris, oh, thank you.
Mr. Generale, just a minute, okay? Whitey, did you get your information?
Yes, table the site plan for Rose Marine.
Okay. You got who made the motion and who seconded it?
Harold
correct?
and Chris, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Gendernaliak, your question?
Yeah, my question is to what date, so we know when to submit the items.
That's going to depend on when you submit.
That's, yeah, you know the deadlines, they have to be met, and they need to be met with hard copies, not just electronic copies. And if you make our next hearing, or excuse me, next planning commission meetings, October, the fourth Wednesday in October. So it's the same procedure to submit your paperwork.
Okay.
Okay. So any more discussion on the motion? If not, roll call, please.
Keith Phil, excused. Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb, excused. Harold Bain,
Yes.
Mark Borchardt,
Yes.
Tom Roselle,
Yes.
Robert Musling,
Yes.
and Kathy Schweikert.
Yes, thank you, Whitey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to move on to item number 7, which is unfinished business. Item A is Airbnb. And am I going to hear from Rod or Eric? Or...
I'll be introducing this. So this is just an introduction of the issue. I know we've had a lot of correspondence related to it, but this is how we typically start zoning ordinance amendments, is just with the basic introduction and discussion of the issue. So first of all, bed and breakfast, the term in zoning ordinances typically is the traditional bed and breakfast that you think of, where there's a host and there's a small sign and breakfast is provided, and that kind of thing. But with the internet and with the sharing economy, this related use has changed. So Airbnb, VRBO, the main difference with these is they do not typically provide breakfast. And also the homeowner may not need to be involved in any way really with the property or the management of the rental in order to operate one of these. So we've pulled out some of your existing zoning ordinance language as a starting point. First are the definitions that relate to this use, the definition of a family. So that does not include bed and breakfast lodging houses. We also provide the definition of dwelling one family and dwelling unit. So these are one household, one family units, and these do not need to be necessarily people related by blood. Same for a household. And then under bed and breakfast lodgings, you have two different types of lodgings. You have the bed and breakfast home, which is one that's operated and the owner is on the site. And then you have a bed and breakfast inn, which the owner could be on the site, but is not necessarily required. So the bed and breakfast lodgings, both types are special land uses in the RS1, RS2, R1L, R1, and C1 districts. And so with the special land use requirements, you have those special standards that all special land uses have, and I'll just highlight a couple that will relate to regulating short-term rentals. So first is a requirement that it must be in a single family dwelling. So that's something you could consider with short-term rentals. Some cities or communities address multiple family or duplex type buildings or commercial buildings that may be allowed to have these types of units. Second is 2F. So the maximum stay limitation is 14 consecutive days, and then no more than 30 days in 1 year. So that's for per transient occupant. So that's something you could tweak. You could lower that stay threshold or increase it, or however you determine. Another item is G, that no separate or additional kitchen facilities shall be provided for guests. So this varies with Airbnb. Some will provide more of a unit with kitchen and bathroom facilities. Some may just provide like a coffee maker and a bathroom. So that can vary, and that may be something that you consider as far as if you're not allowing a kitchen, that may not prevent a short-term rental. Other requirements are direct access to a public road. That seems to be a reasonable requirement. Access to or from a private road is prohibited. So that's again existing language. So typically how this process would work is you would want a general ordinance, a general rental ordinance that would coincide with your zoning ordinance. And so we can talk about the timing of how amendments would be started, but we think that you would need amendments at the least to address the breakfast part of the definition of the use, where you're stating this use has to provide breakfast, which isn't the case obviously with Airbnb type uses. So that could either mean you copy the bed and breakfast language and tweak it for short-term rentals, or you just tweak it to be a little more general. So, and we've also provided some reading resources that you can reference as we go through this process, and wasn't planning on getting into those tonight. So that's all I have.
Okay, I have a question or comment anyways, concerning all these units that you just discussed. I think all the units should be registered with the township. I don't think that's in there. And in compliance with all the ordinances, as you just stated. And that includes the occupancy loads of each of those units, whether you have 10 people, 5 people, or whatever the case may be, subject to township inspections for life and safety issues. And no other business shall be operated from those units.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to also point out that we are in receipt in our packets of the dated 9/14/2020, to whom it may concern, from the residents of the Roy T. Gilbert plot number 12. I'm just going to summarize. Well, I won't summarize. I'm just going to read it. Requesting that the Planning Commission adds short-term vacation rentals to the next agenda meeting. These Airbnbs or short-term rentals are becoming a problem. This market is growing and the township is behind times and needs to address this soon. The closest thing the township has in the books right now is the bed and breakfast. Some of this verbiage would apply to short-term rentals, but I feel, and I'm sure the commission will also feel, that short-term rentals need to be addressed specifically. And it's signed by probably 12, 15 people. So I wanted to let at least that part know that we didn't receive that.
Well, I have a problem with the short-term rentals because I've seen it and witnessed it a couple of times that these people rent this places out. They throw parties and they bring all their buddies and friends and everything. And the parking is just atrocious. I mean, just because they rented the place, but they invite everybody and their brother there. And there's just parking everywhere. And the people that have these things, they're not there. They don't see the parking. I mean, maybe it's just me.
So I empathize with you. I got that nice packet, I think, last month where they discussed what New Orleans had to do and the difficulties they've had. And that goes along with what Mark had to say. The licensing, the enforcement seemed to be tremendous problems and required additional people in that district to take care of the rentals because there were so many.
No, I agree with Mark on the safety issue. It should be they should be looking at it. It should be a certified building. It should, they should know. They should be exits marked and everything, smoke alarms to make sure. I mean, some of these older buildings are not brought up to code.
No.
Any other planning commission member comments? Eric, correct me if I'm wrong on this, please, or clarify for me. Right now in this township, Clay Township, we don't have short-term rentals other than if you're a bed and breakfast.
So you don't, they're not existing or they're not allowed?
They're not allowed. There's definitely existing short-term rentals. Are they allowed or not allowed? I am not naive enough to tell you right now that there's.
They're not permitted.
Thank you,
Unless it's a
Rod.
bed and breakfast.
Thank
Your
you.
ordinance doesn't call them out as a permitted use.
Thank you. So at this
You
particular
certainly
point,
have some.
this particular point in Clay Township, unless you're a bed and breakfast, there are no short-term rentals such as your neighbor next door is renting their house out for the whole summer to 12 different individuals. So at this point, we have nothing in place to regulate that. And it's become quite apparent after this past summer, at least in the community I live, that it's a topic that needs to be addressed. So, and I can see both sides of this story. Obviously the people that live on Inglewood Lake Drive, they must be taking a lot of people down there that have houses they were renting, especially in the summer season on canals. So I just want to make it very clear though, right now, Clay Township doesn't have permitted legal use to do that.
You don't have a general ordinance even, which many
We don't have a
communities
general,
have
okay.
on rental short-term.
And that's where a lot of your licensing information would be in that general ordinance. So you would likely, as the memo said, you'd end up with two different ordinances, zoning ordinance amendment, and then a lot of the regulations would end up in the general law ordinance. So yeah, that's usually how it works.
Yeah, for things like Rod said, like licensing, that may not be a zoning item, but it's still covered in the general ordinance, so you have that.
I think that was basically in the information you sent us last month, right? In that packet, it showed that also, the two licenses, or the two ordinances, I should say. That was all in there. And the difficulty that they had to get to that, it was a multi-year effort. So
Yes,
we need
it
to do
was.
something.
Well, our planners provided us in our packet for tonight's meeting at least 4 different items that different people have in different areas looked at short-term rentals in New Orleans, the city, and how they went about it. It's obviously a topic that needs to be addressed. I'm open to suggestions of how we want to proceed. I mean, we have some of the information. It looks like we had a PowerPoint. It kind of looks like a PowerPoint that was in our packet. So,
And we'll have more specific language. That was just more resources for you to consider, more broad, but we'll have ordinance language and things like that at future meetings.
any commission members, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts? Sounds pretty quiet.
Well, we have an ordinance on trailers we can't enforce. So we're gonna have an ordinance here that we're not gonna be able to enforce again if we come up with one.
Fortunately, you might be correct on that. So Eric or Rod, any suggestions as far as, do you want more input from us, a direction we're looking to go, or?
Well, are we ever going to allow short-term rentals in the township?
I don't know.
What's the first question? That's the first question you need to address.
That's a good question, Mark, because, I mean, we are a recreational area. I mean.
Absolutely.
We're boats. I mean, we're fishing tournament places. Heaven knows we have all that.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really want to lock it out? But then again, here we go.
Not really. Not really. But that's why I'm saying, put these restrictions in place as far as in the ordinances and allow some of this stuff that transpired, because it's like you said, people need a place to go, a place to park, and they need places to eat.
Well, let me ask you.
Unfortunately, we have no enforcement of any of those things.
Well,
so why enact an ordinance? Why enact licensing when none of this is enforced?
Well, we have to charge enough money for the licensees to pay for the enforcement.
Well, I don't disagree. I think that was part of the problem that I saw in that whole discussion about New Orleans and the rest of that short-term rental business. But you cannot write ordinances, and as Harold mentioned, if you drive around the township, you see nothing but trailers, hooked up, not hooked up, parked. We have a trailer ordinance. You can bring them in a week in the spring and a week in the fall to take care of them and then store them someplace. Well, they're being stored and or used year-round everywhere.
well, I just know that there's a lot of these bed and breakfasts already out there. I mean, just go on Google, just put Harson's Island, and there's quite a few. And I not bed and breakfast, but I'm talking about Airbnb.
Okay.
There's a whole different story. There's bed and I made a mistake. It's the Airbnbs that we have here. And I don't have a problem with them, but I think we need to regulate them.
Well, and here's the difficulty I see, particularly maybe in a certain street or canal road or whatever. Say, I'm just going to use a number. So you have 10 houses. What happens if you end up with, out of those 10 houses, 6 of them are now short-term rentals?
So you
nice.
can regulate that. Yeah.
Okay, that's my question.
I think Austin was the one example where they had a percentage by census block. So it was like 2 or 3% of all the houses in a certain census block was the maximum number you could have as rental. So that's obviously a bigger city and it's a bigger number, but you can write.
I could see that being a big concern, just because we are.
Absolutely changes the character of the neighborhood.
It absolutely does. And I've been on both sides. I've rented places, Airbnbs and stuff like that, but I also happen to live in a neighborhood now where we're going the other way. And I can see both sides of this topic discussion, but we just can't ignore it. We're going to have to, I guess, do some research possibly. I read the material you submitted us, but
we did this same discussion in Ira Township, so we can check in with them about how enforcement or permitting is going there. So that's a similarly sized, community that did a general ordinance and zoning ordinance amendment. They may not be as busy as you as far as tourism, but
I would greatly appreciate it if you could pull that information so we could have it for maybe our next meeting, if that is even doable in your time frame.
Right.
Yes.
Can you limit how many of these you could have, new ones you could have per year?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it's kind of open to whatever we want.
Right. You set reasonable parameters.
Right. We set reasonable. It's open to what we want and how we want to steer this. I mean, it's right now the ball's in our court and how we want to play it.
Yeah, when we talked about this previously, there was some state planning exemption law language in the works that would have prohibited communities from regulating this. So that, I think, was kind of why we stopped talking about it at the time, because we were worried that we would, be going through that effort.
You're right, Eric. I do remember that. I do remember you talking about that and presenting that to us.
Yeah, but that, as far as I know, hasn't really gone anywhere since that time. So,
but would that override us from preventing it? I mean, it's like
it could.
It could?
It's called state pre-exemption. They do it on other things sometimes. So they could preempt you from adopting a local ordinance that
Like
regulates it.
emergency declarations, right?
Except this one goes through the legislature.
I'm sorry, but I can recommend an Airbnb in the city of Cologne. If you want me to check it out one more time, I'd be glad to do that.
Nice.
So thoughtful of you, Whitey.
Yeah, well, I'm sending Eric with you, Whitey.
And Eric's wife.
You paying for it?
I'm busy.
Oh, you're busy.
Well, are we at the point that have our planners check into Arroyo Township, see what's going on with that?
Yeah, I'm really good
I
with
think so. So we can look at something just to have a background and or a frame to look at for what we think we can see here. It is something to start with. Certainly, when I was reading that mess from New Orleans and all those places that we got, I mean, after a while I got confused. I didn't know whether I wanted an Airbnb, a B&B, short-term rentals, or anything else, and wanted to see whether I could build an accessory dwelling unit to rent out. It gets to be awfully tough.
It was a lot of information to try to digest.
Yeah, we'll try to bring you a list of hot topic items to talk about.
You may want to look at small homes as well, under 1,000 feet.
Tiny homes, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, or maybe 500, and see how that can fit into the short-term rentals or whatever.
Yeah, that's a possibility for sure. Backyard cottages.
Right.
I think Carol will be you'd be ready to build those.
Just like pods.
We can provide an area where this
there you
is
go.
more allowed than other areas.
You could.
Well, it sounds like the planners have an idea what we're sort of throwing around right now, but it is a topic we need to address. And I know our community is anxious for us to at least get something moving. So are you okay with that, Rod and Eric?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's all right with everybody, I would move then on to item number 8. Chris Siltulman, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I think it's a great direction.
Okay, I just see your face popped up there again, so I thought maybe you said something. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to leave you out of the discussion.
I appreciate it.
Okay, item number 8 is planning consultants report.
The only thing that comes to my mind is the Michigan Association of Planning Conference is coming up. That is the October, and it is the, make sure I get the dates right here. It is the October 7th, 8th, and 9th. It was going to be in Port Huron, believe it or not. But now it's online. So it would have been a great opportunity to have one close by. But it is online, so if you're interested, you can go to Planning Michigan website and check it out. I know a lot of our staff will be involved in that, but just thought I'd report that out to you so let you know that's going on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Item number 9 is ZBA representatives report.
Okay, great. Let's get into this now. We came up with a boathouse issue again with the bird aisles, and they're not happy with our new ordinance that we sat down and drilled out for about 1.5 years, it seems like, because I guess the bird aisles have their own HOA agreement that does anybody here know about that? I didn't know about it.
Are they still active?
I live there.
Yeah, you know about it, Chris? Do you know? I mean, does anybody know about this? Because it was brought up and thrown in our face at the ZBA meeting that they approved a boathouse that we would have never approved, but they approved it, and because it had a 15-foot high door and it wasn't a commercial, it was a residential boathouse. So they come screaming back at me and tell the planning commission, and I said, whoa, nobody knew about an HOA agreement on the bird aisles.
I live on the bird aisles, and
Well, I think it was the colony, basically the colony. I'm sorry, not the bird isles, the colony. And they said they had their own set of rules that they can go by. And I asked Brian Treppa to get me a copy of it, and I still haven't seen a copy of it.
Those are private regulations and they don't really have anything to do with the township ordinance.
I know, but you know, it comes in front of the ZBA because he didn't make the right height on the door. So, I mean, that's what was in front of us. Because everybody wants now a 15-foot high door where we have a 12. So that was one of the big concerns.
I would say that if you're getting multiple requests for a 15-foot high door and that's a trend, then that might be something the ZBA could report back and the planning commission might want to think about whether they want to consider amendment to that if that's
that's what I wanted. That's what I was getting at, and that's where I was going with this, because I'd like to see their HOA agreement, because I thought that it didn't take effect. Our ordinances trump theirs, but they're saying no, it doesn't.
Well, actually, both the township ordinance, you have to follow it. The HOA agreement is something that would be another layer that they would also have to follow, assuming the HOA did it. But just because the HOA says something, it doesn't impact the township's ordinance at all.
Right. Well, these boathouses are quite big on the bird isle, not the bird isles. God, I keep saying it, the colony. And most of them are coming up with 15-foot doors. So I think that might be something we want to look at.
I wonder if with that being an older HOA, if it is actually 15 feet in their HOA documents, or if that's just something that's being requested.
I don't know, Eric. I don't know, because I really want to see the HOA agreement so we could take a look at it as a board here and see, and let you guys look at it and see what you think. But yeah, that's it.
Just as we can't deal and work against the state, how can they work against the township and our ordinances?
Well, I had 15,
who enforces those?
Well, they have a president and the whole thing. They have a whole HOA agreement. So I mean, but I'll be willing to share it with everybody. Like I said, I'll be willing to share it with everybody and let them see it. But as soon as I get it, I think we need to look at that. And you're right, Rod. If we keep coming up with the 15-foot garage doors, being that it's high water, and some of the boathouses, they just aren't fitting in with the boats. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Plus, the boats are getting bigger and taller. So
put some water in the bottom of the boat.
Right. Pull the plug.
That's that. Pull the drain plug. Yeah. I'm good with that. But that's all for the ZBA. That's the ZBA.
That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, Harold. Item number 10 is board representative report.
Okay, are you ready for this?
Sure.
Nothing to report.
Wow.
Boy, that was nice. Short. That's short and sweet, Mark, I'll tell you.
That was beautiful.
Nice job. Okay, I'm going to go item number 11, chairperson's report. The only thing I'm going to mention or draw attention to is the Champions Auto Ferry letter dated September 6, 2020. It was in our packet, I believe. Rod, are you aware of this one in regards to the master plan?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I'm going to say. Unless you have something you want to say in regards to it.
No, we received earlier correspondence in that, and there was consideration given to requests that were made when we were going through the master plan.
Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge that we were in receipt of that. Okay. And thank you to our planners for all the hard work on this meeting that you've done already, and in the future we have. So number 12 is planning commissioner member comments. Any comments, members? I'm not hearing any, so I'm going to move on to item number 13, public comments. Sue, do we have anybody in the public who would like to comment? Can you tell?
I would like to.
Carol Sampson, okay.
6039 Point Trumbull Road. I'm very confused with this master plan with all the different pages in it and the different maps that show the different I'm talking about the Pearl Beach focus area. And I would like to know if there is somebody I can sit down with, because I know I only got 3 minutes here and it's going to take like probably an hour to sit down and go through all these pages. And just because the first, on page 76, they have waterfront commercial, waterfront residential, and commercial and office to mixed use. Reflects desired development at the core intersection of the Pearl Beach focus area. So where is the core intersection of the Pearl Beach focus area on the map?
Old post office.
And they have the waterfront residential to residential transition. That's west of Ford Avenue. And multiple family use to west and commercial area immediately east. So I just need to sit down with somebody to clarify all this, because on page 77 is the future land use map, which right now I'm zoned multiple residency, but with the future land use map, it looks like I'm zoned single. No, I'm zoned, oh, I just had this too. Waterfront residential, the color to me looks like waterfront residential. And we were single family residential on the waterfront. I don't know when it turned to multiple residential. I have no idea. And now they want to put multiple use. So I need an explanation of where the core area is, what's going to be on the multiple use, and I need to clarify on this map where everything is. And then on page 89, they've got this one paragraph. The existing mix of residential, commercial, and industrial in this area necessitate the need for the acquisition of several contiguous parcels in order to make any large-scale redevelopment feasible. Okay, which parcels are you talking about on this map? So I really need to sit down with somebody so I can go over every issue. There's a lot of issues with this because they start on page 76 and it goes all the way to page 90 something, but it's all put in there in different sections, and I need somebody to sit down and lay it out for me. I want the whole thing laid out so I know what is going on. Is there anybody I can sit with and do that?
Either Rod or Eric. I know the board approved. Go ahead.
You can contact Cindy at the
I have
township.
contacted Cindy, and she says I have to talk to the planning commission. Every time you go to the building department for something like this, and say, oh, that's a planning commission, you know, so I want to know who I can talk to.
I mean, it's just, the unfortunate thing is that we're not structured to have hour-long meetings with everybody who wants one. That's not, unfortunately, the township doesn't have a large staff, and it's difficult. But I think, you know, certainly we want to try to answer questions. But if you have some specific ones that you wanted to put in writing and submit them, we could certainly try to help you with that. I guess we'll have to explore a little bit what some other options are in order to do this, because it's just there's the township once again has limited staff, limited hours, and I can't make that decision, and we'll have to explore with staff what options are available.
It may not take an hour. I was using that as a facetious remark, but I would like to be able to sit down and have all the paperwork in front and go through every question I have with the paperwork there with somebody, so I can understand all what they want for the future land use and downtown development for Pearl Beach.
If you would leave your name and contact information with Cindy in the building department, we'll talk to her and we'll see what we can do to work out a way to try to get some of your questions answered.
Good. Yeah, because I know you guys are going to be calling for the public hearing soon for this master plan, but I would like all my questions answered first, and then I would really like to have the master plan postponed for a public hearing till we can get off Zoom.
Not sure that's going to happen. We have to, you know, kind of keep going with the life that we're living via Zoom. I would
Could be
love to
9
not.
months. That could be 9 months from now.
It could be. I don't know. We
Well,
can't just
let's
stop.
postpone the whole master plan till we can do that.
It's not feasible at this point. We have to continue on. But we're going to try very hard to get your questions answered along with anything else we can do. And there are public hearings going to be coming up, correct? On that one, Rod?
October.
And we'll have
October.
more presentation information for that too, as far as what we're saying about Pearl Beach and things like that, and what the changes in the documents actually mean, you know, as far as zoning and property owners.
Because there's a lot going on here, and they're saying, you know, they're not taking anybody's houses and blah, 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 but there's a lot going on here. So where are you going to put all this stuff if you're not going to be wanting to take houses? That's, you know, my main problem is you've got
Running out of time, Carol.
so much going on. Oh, I know, I always do. That's why I said.
Can I say one thing?
Somebody.
Robert?
Just remember, the master plan, even what it states is where we would like to see the community go. It doesn't mean that it is necessarily guaranteed to happen.
Yeah, right, but it started in 1992, so. I just want to make sure I know what's going on with everything. And
Sure.
I
think Rod's suggestion to get in contact with Cindy, and if you have some pointed questions that could be typed up, or, you know, we'll do our best to get those answered along with everybody else's input or questions that come in. So, but there's still more to come in October as far as public hearings and things if we keep proceeding on the path we're at. And we have to keep going at this point.
Okay.
So, thank you though for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else in the public? Sue?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Tom, is it?
Yep, Tom Purcell, 782 Lake Drive again.
Okay.
You were mentioning, just a short question here. You were mentioning something about the Airbnbs, and you're gonna, you know, look into it, come up with something. So right now they're not legal, but there's no way to enforce them. I mean, what's the stand on this right now? They're not bed and breakfasts, so they're a short-term rental. So they can just keep going as is, and nothing can be said until you can enforce it. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. You know, you can do it, but you can't enforce it. But it's not supposed to be here because it's not legal. You know, so it's like, you know, both ways. I just wondered, you know, is there anything going to happen, or is it going to wait till the
Planning Commission is not an enforcement body. You would have to direct your questions on any ordinance, not just short-term rentals. Any ordinance for enforcement
Right.
issues need to be directed to the township offices,
Mhm.
building department,
Police department.
contact your supervisor
We
or our
tried that.
supervisor.
Yeah,
So,
that was a waste of time. That was a year ago. Haven't heard back from in a year.
okay.
But
I know it's the
anyway,
first-
yeah. Well, we thought that was the right thing to do. You know, so we went down and had a nice meeting with them, talked about it. He said, "Oh yeah, it's a problem," and that was the last we heard. That was over a year ago. That's just inexcusable. Stick your head in the sand around here, you're going to end up drowning. The water's too deep.
It's going down though.
That's the
Oh,
only saving grace. Okay, but I just wonder where it was at. I mean, so we
Sure.
got to come up with some ordinances and try to enforce it or something. And they're going to kind of look at the bed and breakfasts and use some of that verbiage and check with adjoining municipalities like Ira and I don't know, Marine City or Port Huron. I mean, doesn't the state already have rules for? You know, isn't there something like some standard in the state for this or no? Or is it just up to every community to come up with their own?
At this point, unless I'm misunderstanding, there's no state regulation. I think that's what we
Right.
were waiting to see. and
Right.
it hasn't come through, so.
Yeah.
But thank
Well-
you for your comments, and you can always, like I said, contact the township offices, okay?
Yeah. Well, okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Yep. Bye now.
Anyone else in the public for public comments? Sue?
I don't see any hands.
Looks pretty quiet to me. I'll ask one more time, public comments? I am not seeing any. Okay, I'm gonna move on to item number 14, which is an adjournment.
So moved.
Everybody second? Who's seconding it?
Second.
Wow.
Thank you, Robert.
That was pretty fast, Whitey.
Thank
Did
you.
pretty fast. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for attending and for all your hard work and making this happen. And Robert, enjoy that beautiful area up there, wherever you're at.
It's between Cadillac and Traverse
night.
City. So, like I said, I'm working. So,
Yeah.
Still looks nice.
Yeah, Rob, that's what everybody says.
I'll have pictures next time.
Okay.
Hey, Sue, thank you so much for your help. I
We want them
appreciate
arranged as nicely as Rod's.
Good night.
I could try.
it. Right.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Good night, ladies, gentlemen.
Good night, Whitey.